Hey, it's me, Puppet DM, and I'm here to tell you all about the sponsors we have here at the Wandering Society. We're sponsored here by Mage Hand Press, makers of a bunch of 5th edition supplements, like the Book of Kobold or their series of new classes. And don't forget, Arcmada, the amazing sci-fi fantasy campaign setting for the world's greatest role-playing game. Be sure to check them out at store.mageandpress.com. Up next, we have Roll20. It's the platform we use here at the Wandering Society to play all of our games. It's easy to use, intuitive, and it now comes with Dark Mode. Be sure to check them out at roll20.net. We're also sponsored by R. Talsorian Games. R. Talsorian Games make great RPGs, and they've been doing so since the early 90s. Check their books. They've got Cyberpunk Red, which Simon tells me has been played here extensively, Castle Falkenstein, which also has been played here, and The Witcher, which has also been. Okay, we get it! Check him out at your FLGS or online at rtalsoriangames.com. Have you ever wanted to wake up and smell the coffee? Well, now you can with this next sponsor, Found Familiar. Get yourself some damn good coffee at foundfamiliar.com and use the code on the screen to get 15% off. What do you mean I can't drink coffee? What the fuck is felt? And we couldn't end this segment without talking about our good friends at Die Hard Dice. That's right. As a Dice affiliate, we are proud to partner with Die Hard Dice to bring you only the best in shiny click-clacks. Click-clacks? What is... Ow. You can check their ever-growing collection over at dieharddice.com and use the link below to get 15% off. You're putting this all on me? I better get a cut.
Oops. Hello, this is the GM's forehead speaking. Let me just adjust my booster seat for a second. It's me. Good evening. The past. The past is a troublesome thing for kindred. Though they have eternity ahead of them if they play their cards right, it seems that they cannot escape it, no matter where they flee or how long they remain in torpor. It's almost ironic how the curse affects each vampire, in that it'll torment them, whether they want to or not. I'm Simon at Wandering DM, and I will be your storyteller for tonight. Now let's see what Arthur has been up to, shall we? And hello, everyone. How's it going? Hello, hello. Welcome to this third season interlude solo Arthur episode. I'm Simon, he, him, I'm the storyteller, of course, I said that. Hope, if you just want to introduce yourself before we jump into it.
Yeah, hey everybody, Pope here, Pope World Build on the socials, Pope World Build on the Twitch. It's good to be here on a Monday night, doing Montreal by night with Arthur Porter. Both of us use he, him pronouns, and yeah, there's a lot of past, present, and future to worry about.
Yes. It's as if living for centuries sort of accrues problems. And sometimes, well, you have to deal with them. But sometimes they might not be your problems. Other times they may be. We're going to start this interlude. So for those of you joining us, last session was the finale of season 3 that took place on October 31st with an Elysium, at the end of which Arthur, I believe, had a very... not Arthur. Oof, what am I saying? Flory and her sire had a very interesting conversation with the sheriff. After, things happen to good old Betty during the Elysium. But that, for tonight, is a distant event. We are on November 3rd. Things have been relatively quiet in the last 72 hours. A cab drove through the rainy streets of Montreal to deliver a necromancer to a manor house downtown. Other things happen, but I don't know what they are because they'll take place next week and the week after. And we'll release Folly's interview. I fucking hell. We'll release Lindy's interlude, probably in between. I have a little bit of editing to do, and then y'all will have access to it. So in the meantime, tonight, it's been raining for a solid 3 days and 3 nights over the island. You haven't had news of the rest of your coterie. Even most of the vampires in town have kind of kept quiet since All Saints' Day. And this monotonous break in activity is interrupted tonight by an insistent knock at your door, Arthur.
Oh, brother, here we go again. Check the camera.
It's a woman. Can't really... where's your camera place compared to, like, let's say, the
front door?
Yeah.
Because anyone who knows anything about security, they're going to be doing a sweep of the door and the lintel. It's not from there. It's angled from the lamppost behind them. So I get to have sort of a back view of the individual.
Okay. She has dark brown hair put up in a a chignon. Yes. As if this is a chignon. a low bun, or a high bun in her case, actually. There's a hairpin stuck through it, but it's kind of hard to make out what it is. She's got a tiny umbrella, and she's dressed in a modest black faux leather coat. Well, it looks like faux leather. Not exactly a trench coat. The the one that ends at like mid thigh.
Okay.
Probably like as a raincoat, but you can clearly see though that nothing shows past the coat. So she's wearing obviously either a skirt or shorts that are like higher than the coat itself.
All right, we'll go and say hi.
She, by the way, she seems alive. She has color.
Okay, we're gonna blush her life before we answer the door. That's the thing that needs to happen.
Gimme that rouse check. Oh yeah, the overlay, by the way, doesn't have the dice tonight, so we'll just call out what happens. Because I don't know why I didn't put any place for the dice roller in there.
Little hungry.
Getting peckish. I mean, food delivery.
She's not necessarily my type. I don't think she's quite expensive enough. But we'll go and say hi.
You open the door. She's not sporting a lot of makeup, just enough to say that, you know, the makeup look where you're not wearing makeup, quote unquote. Glasses. These, like, black rimmed glasses, a little bit on the thicker side. And she says, "Good evening. I was told that someone lived here by the name of Arthur Porter."
It's me.
I come bearing an invitation.
Well, you might as well come in with all this rain. No need to get soaked.
Thank you. She will walk in and just, you know, shake her umbrella outside before closing it, putting it somewhere near the door. I'm not going to stay overly long. I have errands to run, but hi, by the way. She extends a hand.
I'll take it.
I'm Vivian, but my name is unimportant. My employer, let's leave it at that, would like to meet with you. He said that you've worked together recently, and he, in his words, found you to be very interesting, and would like to see you.
Right, Vivian, where am I going this evening?
I wasn't sure you would accept so readily, but the GM just needs to open Google Map for a second. Where is it? It's not what I want. This is what I want. Of course. Because it's hidden on our Legend Keeper. Okay, there we go. She wants you to head to a place in Villeray. So, Villeray St. Mitchell Park it's a whole area of Montreal that is actually a little bit. Well, technically, it borders north of Little Italy, but the place she wants you to go is not so close, and it's actually in an area in Montreal called Little Maghreb. It's basically just one big street, but it is the like it's not a block. It's not really a district. It's like Chinatown, but Arab town, I guess.
Fair enough.
There's a restaurant called the Istanbul. She wants you to go there, but not to the restaurant itself. Go in the back. The red door. And you will need this. And she rummages in the pockets of her raincoat and hands you a silver dollar. We're talking old. Well, I mean, you are old, right?
Yeah.
Arthur, you've seen them in Miami way back when they were already well, I mean, out of circulation. Collectors maybe had them. They used to be called Spanish dollars.
Used by markers by the more Spanish and Portuguese parts of the mob within both Miami and Tampa.
And this one is obviously, at first glance, looks genuine. It's probably something that was, well, I say genuine. Genuine silver dollar. Maybe not one that dates back to like the 16th century, right? But stamped, made, coined, really, probably in the same way it used to be historically.
Well, thank you, Vivian, for this evening's distraction. Best to stay dry. I'll pay your employer a quick visit.
The coin has an expiration date on it. You would do.
It's time sensitive, I get it.
It's yes. I don't want to say that he is eagerly awaiting you, but he hopes you will visit soon.
Patience is a virtue held by the. All right.
The coin on it, if you look it up, you'll notice there are two numbers in total: a 6 and an 11. So it probably expires on November 6th.
All right. We'll go tonight, end pleasantries with Viv, and get myself put together. I think we're going to take the 77 out tonight. 77 Chevrolet Camaro Orange.
Ooh.
Let's head out and see who this previous compadre is.
It's not that long of a drive, by the way, from where you are.
Yeah.
It's like a quick 15-ish minutes. under the rain, and it is pouring down.
That's why we take Camaro.
When you get to the restaurant, it is of course closed.
Course.
There are no lights, no one really on the street either. Most of this street, in fact, is, I'd say, almost half and half. You'll have half like apartment buildings. Sometimes it's going to be like a duplex and then a store, or it's like 2 or 3 stores with apartments above them. So there are a few places with lights on still, but no big activity. And the restaurant that was mentioned is in fact on a street corner, so it's easy enough for you to access the alley in the back if you wanted.
Yeah. Go around, take the big black golf umbrella, and head around back.
There are indeed 2 doors. They're both fire doors, like the, steel reinforced. One of them is, well, the paint all but peeled away. The other one, I guess you could call it a red door. It looks more brown than anything. But they both have a handle.
It's red by 70 standards. So get the coin out in the left hand. First, try the handle. If it doesn't turn, knock.
It's a, the one with the thing that you click.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's unlocked. It opens.
Right. Head in, close up the umbrella, bring it out.
You stand at the top of a narrow staircase. Flickering, buzzing neons. A lot of graffito on the walls. Nothing tasteful. It's more like people have signed their names. I know there's a word for it in graffiti art where it's just, is it just tagging?
It just tagged. Yeah,
it's just
tagged.
It's just tagged like all the way down, almost in the way of a guest book. To the uninitiated, you would just see that as, okay, the place was vandalized or whatever. But really, none of the tags overlap each other, or if they do, they seem to be grouped. Like maybe because like 4 people visited and
a
they're
party
there.
Came in. Yeah.
And at the bottom of the stairs, even though there is no light, you hear the not so faint sound of bass. I don't think I have a track for this at the moment. Or maybe I do. No, I thought I did. I used to have one for Cyberpunk, but I don't have it. But imagine the like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. Head on down.
Bottom of the stairs has no light whatsoever. In fact, couple of steps after you've come down the stairs completely, the way the ceiling was made, the way the angle with the staircase is, and the only neon being farther away, you are almost thrown in darkness. Do you have any way of seeing in little to no light, or do you just feel your way around?
Um,
As the music keeps blasting.
Miami habits. One thing that you always keep on your person. Again, EDC is a way of life. And having a very small hand mag light is incredibly useful. One, for seeing things, two, for breaking people's fingers. So just click, click, and I'm starting to get the feeling that I know who I'm dealing with. So
At the bottom of the stair is just an empty basement. There's a graffiti all over the walls. About 4 big concrete square columns, hold up the ceiling. The lights everywhere, all the fixtures are empty. They've been removed. And in the far end of the room, not necessarily directly facing you when you go out, just a little off to the right, is a pinball machine. The music seems to come from underneath you.
this is my first time. This is my first dance. Let's go to the pinball machine.
It's some like snake theme pinball machine with, you know, the cobra head that's very stylized, and it doesn't seem to be in working order. There is a coin slot.
Of course there is. So just make sure that things line up before I slide the silver dollar in. But when it does match up, we'll slide that in and see what happens next.
You notice actually the coin slot on the pinball machine is different than what you would expect of a stent. Like, it's a little wider, a little longer, big enough to let the silver dollar in. You slot it in, you hear it fall in the machine. There's the ka-ching of a coin, and then something operates inside. And then nothing for a few beats. And then all of a sudden, the machine just blasts music, lights, the whole shebang, the bells, the everything, as you hear a voice coming from somewhere behind you. A person opened one of the columns, just a little, has half their face out. You can see the yellowish eye of one of your brethren. Despite the darkness, the only thing that you can make out, the eye, of course, and what little flash of light the pinball machine lets through. This pale individual, probably North African or Northeast Africa, around Egypt, perhaps.
Yeah.
And just says, "Follow me."
Of course. Click off flashlight. Follow them.
Go into the column, which is big enough to have maybe like 3 people huddled together, as he uses a chain to lower the platform. And as it lowers, you hear the music. And you enter a practically empty nightclub. It's not that big. I mean, the Hunter's Green is definitely bigger. and definitely swankier.
Yeah. Different vibe for different folks.
And it is very gilded, gaudy to a point, with a lot of gold-plated statues, urns, couches, oddly enough.
No, not that odd.
It's got a it's got an old Egyptian feel to it, but not quite. Again, to an uninitiated, might be like the theme they would go for. When you look at it, it seems more like this is just memorabilia that someone kept over the years. You hear a voice. Says, "King, turn off the music." The sound dims. There's not much in the way of lighting. It's kind of yellowish. There's a few bulbs set in the ceiling, but even then it seems this person likes it dark. And approaches you a middle-aged black man. Very, very short hair with like 2 lines shaved in on basically like probably the entire head. Fresh shaven, business attire. If the entire place here is maybe a bit excess,
yeah,
this guy seems almost Spartan compared to the rest. You notice he wears like peeking through the collar of his shirt, of his dress shirt, you notice a small golden chain, and he has 1 ring on his ring finger on his right hand. Something that looks big and heavy enough that could probably count as a weapon in certain places. And when he smiles, it is evident that he is part of the kindred, even though right now he seems to also be blush of lifed. But his fangs don't seem to be retractable. Mr. Porter, glad you could make it. He is now in Legend Keeper, for those of you who would like to see it. I'm going to put the link here. He introduces himself as Mr. Santiago Vagos. I trust your pupil is safe.
Yes, it is.
Do you want a drink? I know it's kind of early, but I'm somewhat of an early drinker.
I'll pass, but thank you.
King, bring me Cynthia. And there's movement in the shadows. Someone who obviously does not want to be seen. In fact, there might be more than one person here who does not want to be seen.
Oh, there's probably.
Santiago, still smiling, says, "I know that my nightclub is nothing like yours, but welcome to the den. It's undergoing renovations at the moment. Do you want to come into my office?
So,
As you walk through, he will say that you are an interesting specimen, Mr. Porter. I've had my eye on you since you arrived in Montreal. After all, I like to know who's in the business. But, well, I did not expect Miami to show up here.
Miami makes its way wherever Miami wants. I'm not Miami.
How can we be sure of that? And he leads you into his office where, kind of like you, he has a board. Except it's about you.
See, even busy.
Well, I like to keep myself abreast of what happens on the surface. There's like a section of his board where you also have like photos taken of Flory and of Dixon.
Is there any branches that go to things that I don't recognize?
That you don't recognize. There are some that lead to just a singular post-it with a question mark on it. Some have things written like Sabat question mark, Elder question mark. There's one with you and Valois with like Strange Alliance written on it. But the one that probably might surprise you the most is the line that leads to just a picture of the Constantinople skyline. Or, sorry, the Istanbul skyline.
Cool.
I wasn't sure when to meet with you, or if we should cross path. But a friend told me I should reach out. And then, well, it just so happens that you ran into, or your pupil, servant,
Friend.
that little boy got into trouble. And, well, I like to fix trouble.
Well, I have an appreciation for someone who's thorough. Looking at the board.
Yes. Maybe I should have covered it. An oversight on my part.
Yeah. Something in the back of your head said I appreciate it.
Mr. Porter, there are archons in this city.
Oh, yes.
And I consider archons problems.
They are.
Why have you brought them in? This is... And he glances back at his board, and you can see he's looking in like one of the direction where there's like a question mark posted. I understand that you seem to deal in information or seek information. I assure you, I'm not here to step on your territory. You can have Little Italy. It's not why I called you here. I would just like to have a chat with the neighbor, as it were. And also, well, I was wondering a few things.
Yeah,
For
why
instance-
the Archons?
Well, the Archons, the other is the criminal element of our city.
Business.
I do enjoy my business, so to me this little tete-a-tete is both business and pleasure.
Thing I keep having to repeat myself often about is I'm not looking to rule anything. I'm just here. He looks back at the board. Because this place, at least for a while, had a clean slate. Something that could be slowly grown into something that once worked. But given the machinations of France and Miami, that's going to be postponed.
I am sorry to hear that. It is a city of blank slates, of new beginnings, or at least, well, it might still be for a few years to come. And then things will set in. Kindred will dig their claws into the island, and the social hierarchy will be established. Whoever's at the top will make the rules, and we'll just have to abide by them.
There's a lot of folks vying for that spot.
Indeed. A lot of folks that don't deserve it, if you want my opinion. There's a knock at the door. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
The deserving rarely seek power.
As you say that, a very pale, like sickly pale looking young woman comes in. She looks to be in a daze. Bags under her eyes, chafed lips. She's wearing like a metal band tank top, black tank top with like torn jeans. And you can see along her arm puncture marks. Not of needles, of fangs. That no one really bothered to completely cover up. And she approaches Santiago, and she basically just extends her arm. He says, "Ah, yes." And he like gently bring her arm closer to his mouth and asks you, "Are you sure I can't interest you in a drink?"
I'm sure. Thank you.
I'll be just a moment. And he bites her wrist and drinks a bit. You hear her like moan, sway, eyes half closed. He's done in a matter of a few seconds. And then sends her away. Yeah. I try not to eat in front of company, but, well, you know how it is. Sometimes we have to keep our cool.
Yes, we do.
Where were we? Yes, ruling the city. Do you know much about the previous rulers, Mr. Porter?
I know enough, but I always could learn more.
Let's leave the Cainites out of the equation for now. Do you know who ruled this city from the mortal's perspective? Let's say in the last century and a half.
Depending on the kind, they'd have different opinions. I mean, if you're talking about criminal elements, there are very specific families that have their footprint on Montreal. If you're asking average citizen, it's going to be capitalism's boot in the heel. I'm certain that you have more definitive answers.
You're not quite wrong. Though perhaps 100 years ago, capitalism was not as harsh a mistress as it is today. The
Oh,
criminal
it's always
element-
been a harsh mistress. Colonialism only knows one thing.
I have to admit, it's hard to see things from the ant's perspective when you are the boot doing the stomping. You're not wrong about the crime element, though. That's been well managed. However, I've been told in no uncertain terms that I should not seek conflict with any family coming in from down south. And that involves you.
I go back a ways.
What do you seek with the criminal element? I've had different whispers coming to me, trying to foray into the cops.
Cops are
also-
problems.
They are.
And like you said, they need to be managed. That boot, unless you have control over it, tends to just go stomping wildly.
Yes. It used to be that you could keep people in line with just fear of the Lord. That hasn't been the case in this town for the past roughly 60 years.
The only ones who fear the Lord, you and I. The kind don't fear God. That horse has left the barn a long time ago.
If only they knew. If only they knew.
But no, I am a creature of old habits. And making certain that that boot is under control is an old habit. And the culture up here is different. Some of the plays that I'm accustomed to have to evolve, change. I didn't do the fear thing. Never have been. It works on kind of a youngish sort. As soon as the kind get older, get a little bit of power, get some money, takes more honey than vinegar to keep them in line. So, having Commissioner in my pocket, bribing the right people, that's just to make certain that their activities stay mundane and may allow certain imports and exports to not be scrutinized quite so heavily. That and the added bonus of when something comes through that does meet my ire, I am informed.
And how goes your efforts, if you don't mind me saying, with law enforcement?
Slow but steady.
Hmm. Then perhaps we need not be antagonistic neighbors. I have been told a great lot of things about you, Mr. Porter. Can I call you Arthur? Can I call you Artie? Art?
Arthur's fine.
Arthur. It took until the Night of Ashes for me to shift my business interests into something more manageable. I have to admit, law enforcement has been a thorn in my side. I can handle it. I have people. You've seen it. My employees are very good at what they do. And what they do is, for all accounts and purposes, not exist. We don't cause trouble. But I like to... I like to have insurance if and when things go south. And in a way, I'm still wearing one of the boot. And you, if your forays go well, seem to be the one who will be wearing the other. Kind speaking, I'm not talking about our family.
No, the cousins are harder to get under control. But I'm not here to be a bad neighbor. Though I will say I am old school. There are two things I don't abide by. And I do not take kindly to the trafficking of children or their abuse for two.
Oh, if you meant Cynthia, she's of age.
No, I'm certain of that. But given that the circulatory system has its ways and means up here in the Great White North, And I know that clientele, especially amongst our cousins, leave much to be desired. I'm just putting it on the table.
Oh, I'll tell you right now, I do not deal with the circulatory system.
Oh, good.
I find these methods to be a bit too easy. To put it plainly, our blue-blooded brothers are half-grown lazy and complacent. And they've built something that just encourages laziness and complacency. I'm not. I like to be at the top of the pyramid. But I like to have built the pyramid myself before I sit at the top. Not have it handed over to me by some hedge fund trustee that craved a drink one night. No, I'm actually talking about crime, and he's going to flip his board over.
Yeah.
And you notice those are all older pictures. Some of them taken back when cameras weren't HD. There's a lot of humans. A lot of humans, and a lot of them have X's in red marker across their pictures. Can you give me a roll? I would need... I guess Intel or wits both could work.
Okay.
And we'll go with it's history. It's crime or history, so I mean
academics and I have a history specialty. Let's go with that.
Go with that. Yep. Yeah, go with that. Difficulty, I'll go with 2. Okay. And then if you reach 4, wait a second. Yeah, that would be a messy crit, unless you want to reroll something.
I'll spend the willpower and reroll 2 of them.
Alright. Well, I mean, by default, if you reroll just your 10, and it lands on anything but a 10.
Yeah, but I'm going to also re-roll the one that failed as well as the 10.
No, sure. I mean, go ahead. You're allowed.
There we go.
2 regular successes. So 4 successes total. You recognize a lot of these faces. And they're all mafiosi. In fact, more than that, they're all part of the same family, the Rizzuto clan. And he seems to have targeted and eliminated them. You remember that, there was the 90s here in Quebec, there was a lot of issues with the Hells Angels and then the Rock Machines and a couple of wars, a couple of shootouts, a lot of quarreling. But the Rizzutos have sort of flown under the radar from a kind stance anyway. I mean, they were in the news sometimes, they did stuff. But in this case, it seems that Santiago is taken care from what you can make out of those X's, of all of them. You know, with your successes, that the crime family hasn't been entirely decimated. Like, that would have spread like wildfire.
Oh, yeah.
And some of them have X's, but you know them to be alive.
Yeah, but they're taken care of. No, I read the wall, and I just go, nicely done. I do not have much ties with the Rizzutos. My old school allegiances lies with the Bonanno family.
Hmm. Do you still... no, let's leave that question for after. The reason I'm showing you this... As far as we are concerned, I am crime in this city. As far as a lot of the other kindred... Sorry, that was a giant snort from my cat. As far as the other kindred are concerned, I do not exist, and I would appreciate it if you kept it that way.
I can be awfully forgetful when need be.
Good. I would hate for something to happen to poor Ralphie after I went through so much effort to save him. But I am not here to make enemies. Arthur. Since you are old school, let's put cards on the table. I want you to succeed with the police. See, there was a tenuous relationship between the cops and crime way back when this city was just chock full of religious freaks. The Sabbat, of course.
Yeah.
They did not manage things well. They, in fact, created a lot of problems that took a lot of effort and a lot of blood to clean. But, thanks to some surgical precision, that's been taken care of. I would like for this island to forget about what happened in the last century or so. But I would also like to own my own yacht. It's going to be a little difficult if I also have to handle the law enforcement side of things.
Yachts are overrated. But no, I think we can come to an arrangement.
I don't step on your toes, you don't step on mine. I don't even need... Let's do things by the book. He gets an actual accounting book out of his desk, opens it. And you see it's just like a list of like transactions, it seems, written in some like chicken scratch cursive that could almost pass for a cipher or a doctor. But he taps the book and says, it's not even a boon issue. I would leave it as is. You handle the cops, I handle the crime. You do your thing, you don't play in my backyard, I don't play in your backyard. And we can both be happy neighbors.
It's actually more of what I was trying to go for when I first came up here.
It's what I thought too, and he flips the board back over. I mean, I know that some of your associates, and he points to the corner where Lucky and Florrie's pictures are. I know that some of your associates also deal in crime-adjacent activities. But insofar as I am concerned at the moment, no one overstepped their boundaries, which is why I did not need to show myself to any of you until Mr. Lombardi. And from what I understood, it was a mishap on his part, an error in judgment. The kid tried to do good and didn't really know how things worked.
Yeah. You still learn.
Well, I have good teachers if he needs to go to school.
I think we're changing his specialty.
I know a bit of Mr. Benedetto. Benedetto? Yeah. I know a bit of Mr. Benedetto's history. But as far as I'm concerned, he's not really active anymore.
No. But there is enough happening on this island that could use some of my old expertise, which we're going to get Ralphie involved. Laundry.
Oh. I have a few businesses, but I mean, if you offer the service, I'm sure, and he taps the book again, I'm sure we can come to some sort of agreement.
It's how I got out of mine. The religious nuts aren't necessarily good with their books, but they desperately need money.
Yeah, I have to say, when you have ties with the church for so many centuries, you pick up a thing or two, I guess. He laughs. Yes, other point. Speaking of religion and of the Sword of Cain, out of pure curiosity, what made you leave Miami? I mean, the place was, from what I understood, a real haven for Cainites.
News came in 45. I didn't like the local response. Something in me, deep down, didn't sit well. I got tired of being fucking evil.
I could launch into a whole parable about how evil is relative.
No, the kind gave a very good definition, and I was not okay with it. And the fact that my comrades were was the straw that broke the camel's back.
But you are not part of the Ivory Tower. Oh, before we go any further, I am not an Inquisitor. I am not, like, he raises a hand, almost like a scout's promise. Not an Inquisitor, not an Archon. I'm just curious. And
Archons are too stuffed shirt.
He'll like point to other of the post-its. And of course, if I overstep, you just need to tell me.
I'm relatively open book these days.
It's what I heard, hence why I extended the invitation.
Oh, I do have to warn you, the last person I kind of laid all the cards on the table went missing recently.
Yes. About that. Well, I mean, I guess we can get back to pleasantries. After. Would you follow me, Arthur?
Certainly.
It's gonna get out of the office, and so the way this little club is built, basically in that basement, when you arrived in the elevator, there you have what would be like your dance floor with a few tables lining the walls left and right. Then in the, let's say, like left-ish corner, there's a step that goes up. You have like your other area that has more tables, the bar itself, the DJ table, DJ booth. And then past that, so you would have to go behind the bar, there was this door. And another, which he basically just exits his office to go immediately in the other one, which is another staircase. He turns on a light and winces a little. It says, it's going to be a little damp.
It's damp upstairs, might as well be damp downstairs.
It's mostly for the shoes. And he actually takes his shoes off and holds them in his hand as he goes barefoot down the steel staircase. And whereas you could hear the music earlier coming down and still hear it sort of when you exited his office, it slowly fades to give way to the rattling of chains and hissing. And we're going to take a break on that. So we can, just like Santiago, grab a drink, stretch, maybe take off your shoes if you want to feel like you're part of the game. And we're going to be right back, everyone. And we are muted. At least there were captions. Thank you, Vervor. As you go down the stairs, steel staircase leads away to hewed stone, concrete, bedrock, and the sound of the rattling of chains becomes louder. Santiago doesn't turn around, but he says, what you're about to see is not pretty.
I have a feeling.
And he brings you to... It brings back memories of your Sabbat years. A sacrificial, ritualistic room. Something that the Tremere, Anti-Tribu, or even the Zimichi would have used for their rituals. Most of it has been erased. I'm not going to say defaced because I feel like defaced has an intent behind it. In this case, it's more like we wanted to secularize the entire
space.
room. Yeah, that's it. But it still very much has the same configuration, the same like grooves in the floor for blood, for rivulets of blood, blah blah blah. You can still see where like an altar should have been, but instead it's this sorry creature. You cannot call this a kindred anymore. Long, matted, gray hair, hide, the chest and the face of a chained white. Its nails are so long that they could probably count as daggers now. It's completely naked, though at this point, between that and a mummy, there wouldn't be a big difference. It's a desiccated corpse that still somehow stands. And it is chained both wrists, though it is able to bring its hands up to its face if it wants to. And you can see even across its back and its chest, large claw marks, like the creature clawed at itself. The legs are also chained, though they have a bit more movement. Like the thing could walk around in a circle, kind of like a lion pacing in a very small cage. And right atop it is this kind of like funnel that leads into the ceiling, and there's one light in the whole room, a thin strip of LEDs that basically line up, the only modern thing really it seems in the room, that line up around the line up the periphery of this sacrificial room. And you can see through those, like, with the help of those LEDs, that there's like caked blood on the tip of that funnel. Arthur, I would like you to meet, well, not Diana. This is not Miss St. Laurent, but this is probably related, I fear. I do not know them.
Well, by the looks of it, there's not a lot of them left.
No, I've come to call them Bloody Mess. I don't know much more about them, other than, well, Um, hmm. I would like to show you something, but, well, he loosens his tie, removes his jacket and his shirt. He just hands them to you,
Yeah,
expecting you to
I'll
hold
on
them.
to it. Yeah.
Once he's half naked, he's like, I want you to see something, but you won't have a whole lot of time.
I see. All right.
I will try to keep them still. And he turns into a giant snake. Rapidly moves up to this white and basically like tries to hold it so that it can't really move. And the snake basically like shoves the person's face, like the white's face, to the side like this and tries to keep it still. And you notice it's got like a tattoo right here of a dragon.
All right. Now, sounds like time for one of them their rules.
I know, right? And he's going to let go after that. So you really have like the one chance.
So, resolve, occult, and my Zamish specialty?
Your Zamish specialty, you can include it if you want. But let's tweak your roll a bit.
All right.
If you lean too much into your Zamish specialty, the difficulty is going to be one harder.
Okay.
So it almost balances out in the end, but the info, I will tell you right now, the info will be different.
Okay.
You can look at this thing from two angles, but since you don't have a whole lot of time right now, I mean, you know, after tonight, when Arthur has time to think, but in the moment, the first thing that will come to mind will be your result of your wits and occult check.
All right. We won't use the specialty then.
Okay.
Just go straight occult.
All right.
But this is important enough. I feel like I need to rouse the blood.
Okay. And I will say it is a difficulty. It's either 3 or 4. So let me just. It's gonna be 3, actually.
Okay. Four successes.
4, 6. Okay.
Or 3 successes. Because I don't have the. It's not counting things, right? It's 3.
Yeah, it's 3. Yeah.
But got the successes.
But it's 4 dice rolled, yeah, and 3 successes. You recognize the mark as the brand of Cardinal Strathcona. The leader of the Sabbat in Montreal had a face tattoo of a dragon because edgy.
Yeah.
But one of the things that he would do is often mark those loyal to him with a similar brand. Though with 4 successes, I will give you a twist. The brand was often seen with derision by the Tsimichi, who are the clan of the dragon. And why the fuck would he, you know, pretend to be a dragon, if not because he was Ventru, and not, you know, an actual worthy, legit leader of the Sabbat. But also, it's not just his most loyal followers that had it. It was kind of an ill-kept secret that he would also brand those he considered betrayers, like a scarlet letter in a way.
Yeah.
That would mark them just like the most loyal, but it was done in an ironical way. There is no way to know if this white, because you cannot speak with it, right? So either this was a very loyal person or a very disloyal person, but it's either extremes. Though you recognize the dragon for what it is. It is Strathcona's brand. What's your... How many dots do you have in awareness?
Not too many, because everything is spread thin. So I have at least something in most things. I only have a single dot.
Only have a single dot?
Yeah. That way I actually have the ability to roll things.
Yeah. It is a little too difficult to see right now if it was tattooed, if it was branded, inked, or if it's some sort of like magical thing, but you at least recognize the shape.
Yeah, it's at least enough that it held, as opposed to being healed.
Yeah, and then Santiago will unwrap from around, come back, get back into his humanoid form, and then take his clothes back and says, I don't like to do that often, but there is very little that we can do to restrain the thing.
Yeah, there are few gifts of the blood that still work on those. So brute force, I understand. But that's Strathcona's brand. So
yes,
somebody that was loyal to him or someone who is ironically branded.
I see you know your Montreal lore.
I know about bad leaders. Strathcona was one of the worst.
He was. I can unironically say, thank God he's gone.
One hopes that's true. There's somebody wandering around underground that's wearing a coat of faces.
So you've heard about that too?
News travels fast. As well as there being a lot more of those around here.
Yes. This one actually came up for a visit. And he points like I was gonna say a corner. It's not a corner. The room is circular, but like in one of the recesses of the room, there's a grate, just a drain, really. He says, "Could you believe it crawled out of there?"
Well, I believe it.
Like some creature right out of a horror movie.
Yeah.
We keep it down here now. It's the best we can. The thing is my people, and he motions you to go back up the stairs.
Yeah.
He says, my people have eyes and ears a bit everywhere. You've seen my board. I know a lot of what happens here. I don't know where these come from, but they seem to be related to the face-wearing person.
I have a feeling there's a couple of answers to that question. One of them is they're legit survivors. Those that went deep underground within the facility, stayed down there too long. Or either a face wearer or someone else someone who knows their way around the old magics, is making themselves a small army.
See, my theory was more lended itself closer to your first point. I think these are just poor, unfortunate Cainites who survived the Night of Ashes and were trapped somewhere. Eventually, they clawed their way out, and we're just seeing them now wander around.
Yeah, but it's getting to the point that it's with such frequency and veracity that keeping a lid on it is going to be difficult.
So far, my people have seen 3. This is one of them. The other 2 were seen in the older tunnels under the sewers. One was seen near an exit, a route that we know, an old prohibition route. Not that it was much needed here, but when you needed to send things quietly across the border, all that to say, it was a little too close to being able to climb up to the surface for our tastes.
One decided to make a new hole in Little Italy's infrastructure.
I hope you dealt with it.
It's been taken care of, but there's a number of them down. And it is either there were a lot more survivors that, again, spent too long down there. Somebody's making them on purpose.
My memory might be faulty, but don't you need to have a kindred first? And don't you need to lose yourself to hunger before you turn into a white? Isn't that a process that should take? And I'm not very well versed in. I'm more of a student of Kine than kindred. But I thought that this was sort of the boogeyman. You cannot wake up one day and just be hungry enough that you turn into a white.
There are ways. There are definite ways. I'm fairly certain you know the term shovelhead.
I was here for
Yeah.
the Night of Ashes.
So
I've known a few myself.
There's a more extreme version.
We weren't privy to a lot of rituals by virtue of worshipping a different god, if you will.
Fair. But the Sword of Cain has many weapons in its arsenal. That down there is a salt the earth level weapon. You can artificially generate. You just need a will, kind, or kindred, right tools, and time. So you could artificially produce a lot. But you only do that when you have nothing to lose.
With the Archons patrolling the surface, I feel like these rogue weapons are going to be a problem.
Oh, these are only the ones we know about. I'm certain there's at least 2 that we don't, that are probably downstairs just waiting to be activated. This was the library of the Sword of Cain. This is a place where people would experiment, learn practices. And there has to be at least 2 large grade weapons down there.
I'll tell you that. Human trafficking was booming back then.
But
Here's my issue, and I'm sorry to bring this back to business, as much
fair.
pleasure as this was. Why are the Archons here, Arthur? Because if these things come out, the salt the earth will be done not by the Sword of Cain, but by the wrath of the Ivory Tower. I fear that they'll see every one of you as an enemy.
The Archons are here because Archons do one thing: protect the tower. Right now, I am under the one I've seen with my eyes, the eyes can lie, the impression that the monster that made me is here and has influence over this petty prince.
I've only heard the name. Philogamo, I think.
Yeah?
Not here. Research. Down south. Hence why we have the name. I've never asked anyone to track this person. I didn't think I would... I didn't think I would need to scout out your entire family tree.
It's long and its glories are dark.
Well then. With everything happening, I have a vested interest in making sure that me and mine don't get into the crosshair of the tower, or the Sword of Cain, or some such. We're good at disappearing when we need to. My problem will remain the Archon, so I will be blunt. What would it take for you to get rid of them? To tell them that all is well, and they can just fuck right off.
I would need 2 things. Need 2 things, want 3.
If there is anything that me and mine are good at, is to provide for those who want.
The want is I want Diane found, and if she is in any way, shape, or form that can be returned, to be returned. Her part in this is collateral damage that I cannot stand idly by. The needs are very simple. I need to know what it is that Paris wants with Montreal. Why that princelin's here. What's the real deal? And the second is I need my sire staked.
Well, none of these are impossible. He smiles a devilish smile. But none of these I can do without expending considerable resources. You wouldn't happen to have Diana's blood anywhere, would you?
Not to my knowledge. I do have some effects of hers.
Effects might work, but I would have to look into it. As far as... the staking... yes, that will be considerable efforts.
Oh, yes. She was exceptional at dueling.
And, I'll find Diana. What was the third point again?
I need to know what the fuck Paris wants with Montreal.
Oh, Paris, yeah. That last point I can probably help. Let me rephrase that. The last point I definitely can help. But nothing is ever free. I have stopped giving away freebies a long time ago. The ROI is not the best on those things. So... I hate to use their methods. And, you know, you walked back to his office, we sat back in his chair. Taps the book again. I can give you info on Paris. But I will come asking for information in return. At a moment and on a topic that I will choose.
Counter offer. You get me this info. And I can make it so that in good time that your financials are absolutely impeccable and no one from any division of any investigatory body can find them.
Let me put a wrench in that. Your counteroffer, Arthur, while it might be tempting and generous, has... how can I say that? It has root in the Kine world. The danger that my agents would face to get information on Paris is not from the kind, but from those who share our curse. I would rather we trade in equal, let's say, spheres than... I appreciate it. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate the offer. And if I felt like this upstart prince that barely unboxed his belongings, if I felt that Kine were behind him, even if we were talking about the Inquisition, I would have agreed. But I can deal with Kine issues.
There's a different kind of offer for a while. Something that I like immediacy. I don't like things hanging over my head.
Hmm.
I know a lot about the capabilities of what one of me and mine in the olden days can do. You have a very large physical footprint here. A sizable one, which you've gone to definitely significant efforts and probably some of the old magics that come from your lineage to help ward off the nastiness that other of our cousins can do. But I can install some other forms of security, some that might ward off, say, another one of those unwanted cockroaches coming up from beneath. As well as some of the members, now that there are fucking 2 of them, of the pyramid peering downward. I expend my expertise and sizable resources to
Tempting.
better proof against unnatural prying.
I will agree, but with an addendum. It might not be this place that I asked you to ward.
Very well.
Then he starts writing in his book. Chicken scratch. Flips it over into you, into the pen. I don't do blood packs. I don't do any of that shit. I deal in honor and the threat of revenge.
Bolts. Just smiles.
It really doesn't look like anything but just like a string of spirals. Kind of like, you know, a coiled snake.
Yeah.
He'll take the book back, close it, and says, well, that concludes all the reasons I needed to see you. King will accompany you back to the exit. He is the one who found your boy, by the way, if you wanted to know.
Good work.
King does good work.
He is an asset to your organization. Hold on to that.
And the guy that comes to pick you up, in fact, has been in the office this whole fucking time. The door doesn't open when he just walks out from nowhere. King is also in the Legend Keeper, called King under the Independence. It's a tall and lanky individual with scaly. So the picture shows it kind of like a tattoo, but while the snake along his arm is a full-on like full sleeve, he has snake scales that go from the top of his neck down his clavicles, down his shoulder, and cover also the shoulder blades in the back. The rest of the skin is human skin, but this is clearly like the glistening scales of a snake. He's got like long, mopey, faux hawk hair, black, shaved on the one side. Presently wears a just a white tank top and black leather pants. And he's got way too many earrings to count, to the point where every move of his head is accompanied by the little jingle, the clinging of all the earrings. And he says, "Please, follow me."
Certainly.
And he will lead you out.
As we're on the way out, back in my younger days when I was finding myself, I ran into someone you remind me of back in Monaco. I was doing my research.
Are you saying that to King or to Santiago?
The king.
Okay. I have never been in Monaco.
It is a beautiful place. It's worth visiting.
Maybe one day. And as he brings you upstairs, says, "You have a good night now. I trust the kid is safe."
Yeah. Thank you. And he actually does tip his hat.
Anytime. The pleasure was all mine.
Collect my umbrella and get the fuck out of there.
And that's where we're gonna end tonight. Our little interlude lasts a little less long than a regular session, but it's the one-on-one, so it always depends. But we have just introduced another element to Kindred Society in Montreal. How was it?
Enlightening. I was wondering where the fuck the ministry were.
Very well hidden.
Apparently.
Yep. They, without going into a lot of like rules and going into the brushes, into the thick of things, it's a giant. Santiago basically has a network more of like human contacts and informants. So it's harder to see the ministry because the ministry is in fact, I don't know, a couple hundred people.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Pope, for being here tonight and well, talking to the ministry and well, we'll see what happens. But Yeah, none too happy that that you've called up the vampire cops. Someone has to deal with them.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But it's interesting how those vampire cops haven't actually found anything, even though they probably have already talked with the guy who saw the thing.
Oh, they're taking their sweet time, and we'll definitely see them again.
Oh, I'm certain, especially with word of Amaranth going about. So
Whatever do you mean?
there are a lot of sins in Montreal. A lot of sins. Hey, everybody. If you enjoyed this center, you can see me online wherever you can find Pope World Build. And if you want to see more of my silly face doing possibly despicable double dealing, tune in over on Practical Earth Thesmophoria Sunday, 8 p.m. for more carousel court. As the newest arc has just begun. We're in the 60s. A lot of people need to get married, and some people need to get buried. So you definitely want to tune in for that, and definitely be back here on Monday nights as more of these interludes come out.
Next,
There's a lot to be done.
next Monday is all about Dixon.
Will we finally see the damn makeup?
I hope we see the damn makeup. And I do believe... Oh, shoot. I have to send a message tonight. Dixon might not be a one-on-one due to something the trooper asked me. And then we're going to have Flory. And then we're going to be back. And yeah, things happening. But I'll leave it there for tonight. Yeah, you can see us here every Monday at 8:30 p.m. For Montreal by Night. On Saturdays, not this Saturday. We were back for Scion. We've played for the last 2 weeks. A light-hearted, wholesome, existential crises kind of weeks. And we're not there this Saturday because 90% of us, actually, even myself, have realized that we have engagements that aren't stream related. But we'll be back next week at 1 p.m. Eastern for some more Scion. And barring any problems, I should be here on Thursday night at 8:30 to continue the adventure of Jacques of all trade, gnome extraordinaire, neurosurgeon, and currently gaining 1 level in every class in Baldur's Gate. Oh, we're shooting for that. He is amazing. But on that note, thank you everyone for coming, and I will see you next week. Bye bye.